I welcome you to our second lesson on electricity, and today we're going to be looking at methods of electricity generation. Stay focused. The first method of generating electricity we are going to look at is the hydroelectric power. This is because most of the electricity we use in our homes, schools, and agriculture comes from Kariba, which generates where there's a hydropower station that generates electricity. So this is how it works. At the hydropower station, we have got a wide opening that allows water to come in, which we call the intake. So this wide opening will allow the water from the river or the reservoir to flow in it. And then as this intake goes further, it begins to narrow. So when the water gets in, as it reaches the point where it's narrow, it increases its speed and it increases its pressure. As this speed and pressure is increased, it turns the turbines, and when the turbines are turned, they rotate the coil. And we know what happens when the coil is rotated in the presence of the magnetic field. Well, electricity is generated. The diagram, you can see what I'm talking about. Another method we have of generating electricity is by using the heat. So when you're talking about heat, we're talking about thermal. So thermal power is the power that is produced from heat. There are different things that can be burnt to produce heat, such as coal, oil, or natural gas. In Zimbabwe, we mainly use coal, where it is done at Hwange Power Station. So now let's look at how this is exactly done. What they do is they burn the coal, and when they burn this coal, they'll be heating the water in a way that it will produce the steam. We did this in the lesson of evaporation. When water is heated, it produces steam. So this steam is then channeled through pipes at a very high speed, thereby causing the turbines to rotate. And when the turbines rotate, they will also turn the coil in the magnetic field. And we all know what happens when the coil is turned in the magnetic field. Electricity is produced. Next up, we have got wind energy, the energy we get from the wind. So the windmill can convert the air or the wind into electrical energy. And how exactly does it do that? Well, as the windmill is rotating, it is going to turn on the what? The turbine. And when it turns the turbines, the turbine will also turn the coil in the magnetic field, and electricity is produced. Another form of energy we have is called nuclear energy. When we're talking about nuclear energy, we're referring to the power that is formed from the splitting and fusing of atoms. Now remember, we said all materials are made up of atoms. So we've got a specific kind of atoms of metal which are called uranium. So these uranium atoms, they can be split to produce new atoms for new elements. So whenever the atoms are split, a lot of energy is produced. So what now happens in this process is when they are splitting the atoms, they will take the energy that is produced and use it to turn on the turbines or to rotate the turbines. And when the turbines are rotated, in turn they will also rotate the coil in the magnetic field, and electricity is produced. Finally, in our lesson today, we have got solar energy, the usual one. We all know that, right? So with the solar energy, what happens is when the sun hits the solar panel, the photovoltaic cells in the solar panel will convert the solar energy into electrical energy, and that energy is stored in a battery. We then use a converter to use the energy wisely, to use the power wisely in our homes. So these are the stages, or these are the types of methods we have for generating electricity. I certainly hope you had a good time and you understood. Otherwise, you can always go back and rewatch the video. See you.